Ladies and gentlemen, if may have the best of your attention, please. I understand most of us have something fizzy in a glass, suitable for in a moment. But first of all, please, I crave your attention for the bloke that paid for all this. So give him a bit of respect, Mr. Julian Mead, the father of the bride.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make sure that the people at either ends can hear what I'm saying. So, parents with young children, please, can you try and keep them under control?
That'll be a first.
Yeah. So, the big day has arrived. Woohoo! It's good to see so many friends and family here to celebrate Sarah and Pete's wedding and to meet with you, many for the first time. Many of you, of course, have travelled a long way and you're very, very welcome. When I was asked by Pete and Sarah to make a speech, I considered what approach I should take. A humorous angle always goes down well, but the problem is you have to carry it off. Yeah. And a common lament from my children is, Dad, that's just not funny. So I'm going to be guided by my nearest and dearest and leave the funny lines to those that follow and stick with some wry observations and thoughts from the heart. I was looking through the family photos recently and memories came flooding back. In our house, we've never been very well organised with regard to their cataloguing. And they've just been stuffed in a drawer, all mixed up. I thought to mark the occasion, it would be rather nice to set Sarah's life to do a slideshow set with photos and music. And the final result, which includes photos of a younger Pete, and in which many of you will be seen, will be in the kiln room, which is down there on the right-hand side, and it'll be running throughout the evening in between the sort of cutting of the cake and other things. But James here, my son in the glasses, and myself will be setting it going, and one of us will be there. So if you want to see it and there's nobody there, come and find us and we'll set it running. Sorting through the photos has reminded me what wonderful holidays we have had together as a family. And I think, looking back, that our travel exploits have contributed to the success Sarah has had in living abroad. I'm sure that this will continue in Dubai, where Sarah and Pete will start their home life. I hope you enjoy the slideshow as much as I enjoyed making it. Thanks to all those who contributed, and to Barbara in particular for the early years pics, and apologies for any of you that I've left out. The memory of walking with Sarah down the aisle today is a moment I will cherish all my life. She looked so beautiful, self-assured, and ready for her new life ahead. Kim and I are very pleased that she has found a partner with which she can confront life's challenges and we warmly welcome Pete into our family. We've not known Pete for long, but what we do know is that he's made Sarah very happy. And what more can a parent want than that? It is obvious that they love each other very much, and we look forward to getting to know Pete better in the years to come. He joined us on holiday in Cornwall for a few days in Cornwall in the new year, and we can see a jovial character who is very good company. We are quite a noisy family when we are all together, with plenty of banter, and it's great to have an addition to the group. I was driving Sarah to the airport recently, and I asked for her standout recollections whilst growing up. Music was a recurring theme, and it certainly is and has been an important part of our family life. 4 of us either play an instrument or sing, and whilst my own musical talents are 0, I listen a lot, and I'm very passionate about what I listen to. The house and the car have always rung to the sounds of musical notes in many different forms. Sarah remembers, together with her brother and sister, being taken to school by Grandpa Peter and singing the chorus of Oklahoma as they went. And on other occasions, singing along with Mum to ABBA's hits. My efforts to persuade Sarah of the joys of David Bowie, Genesis and Kate Bush have largely fallen on deaf ears. But we did go to a couple of great Amy MacDonald and Peter Gabriel gigs. The Steps show, though, is probably best forgotten. As we continued our journey and were getting closer to the airport, Sarah's phone pinged, and it was a text from Pete. Sarah had sent Pete a Facebook link titled, "The 50 Things You Need to Do for a Relationship to Last." So I'm pleased you're setting the ground rules early, Sarah. As someone married for nearly 30 years, I was intrigued. I couldn't help but find out more. Was I doing the right things to sustain my relationship? I'm not one for lists, really, but there was a lot of truth in what was written there. One of the best observations, I thought, was on forgiveness within marriage. Didn't Jesus say something about forgiving someone not just 7 times, but 70 times 7? Perhaps something relevant to many relationships. Kim and I have been very fortunate to have a very happy marriage and home life, and have been able to share our lives with 3 wonderful children. I want to take the opportunity to say that this has been in no small part to the skills, love and hard work of Kim, a very dear wife. I am sure that Sarah will bring some of her mother's qualities and experiences of our home into the life she and Pete will create together. Stanway Evangelical Church has been an important part of Sarah's life since early days. And of course, it is really how Sarah and Pete met. The church has always been very warm and welcoming, and I thank you for that. Kim and I are not churchgoers, and I have a confession to make in that the children started going to Sunday school more for Kim and I to have some peace and quiet on a Sunday morning rather than any belief in religious guidance. But what happy consequences from a decision made many years ago. Sarah is our firstborn, and so often the things that she did and which Kim and I did with her were experiences we both had for the first time. She has always been the sensible one, with an inclination to be rather indecisive. As she has grown into a young woman, this has disappeared, and she is confident of her path in life and the choices she wants to take, and Kim and I are very proud of her. It seems to me that life is a series of firsts and lasts. First words, first steps, first friend, last school, last home, last goodbye. Sarah and Pete are embarking on a new first, and Kim and I wish them all the very best for the future. Please join with me and show our love and best wishes for Pete and Sarah with a toast. We wish them a very happy future together. Sarah and Pete.
Sarah and Pete.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, some words, some of them well chosen, from the groom. Pass it on to Pete.
Pete.
Can you hear me at the back? I'll have to put my teacher voice on. Yeah. My wife and I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's come today. It's been such a blessing to have you join us and support us and love us. And so I just wanted to honestly and from the bottom of my heart say thank you for everything you've done. But unfortunately today's not about you guys. It's actually about my beautiful wife. And doesn't she look beautiful?
Amen.
Yes.
And I must say that I am such a blessed man to have Sarah as my wife. And God has been good to me in giving me such a beautiful wife. And she's making me an extremely happy man today. So today is all about celebrating what God has done for us on a personal level and as a couple, and in bringing us together. But at the end of the day, God is at the centre of everything. Whether you believe in God or not, I firmly do. And He is at the centre of it all. And so today we really wanted to honour God in everything, because you probably noticed in the worship this morning, it was all about praising and worshipping our wonderful Saviour. For He is the reason we exist, and He is the one that brought me and Sarah together. So, each one of you has played such a huge part in our lives. And many of you have had an impact far beyond what you realise. And it is such a tough thing that we're in such a time-poor society that we don't get the time to spend with the nearest and dearest as much as we want. But we have so many great friends. We have so many great family. We have so much to be thankful for. And so you carry us when we need carrying, and you've loved us when we don't deserve it. So I just really want to say a big thank you. For words cannot express how grateful we are to each and every one of you. Some of you really do not know the effect that you've had on our lives. And so I want to take you on a journey now, because there's a number of people here that don't actually know how myself and Sarah came to be together. As Julian alluded, we first met at church, and it was in Birmingham. And it was 5 years ago when Sarah arrived in the University of Birmingham on a Sunday morning. She arrived at church, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, smiley, bubbly, as she always is. When Muggins here has the pleasure of being able to welcome her to church that morning. And she doesn't remember this, but as was the tradition at Church Central, we used to take everyone to the pub. Not to get them drunk, but to give them some food. And we got to know each other, and eventually she was part of a small group that I was involved in at the church. And that was really where we first got to know each other. Now, I want to fast forward a year or two, and there was a big event that we are part of called New Day, and you'll notice the cake topper has me and in a high visibility jacket, and my friends here on this table will relate to these stories. But New Day is a church conference or festival for young people, about 6,000 young people, and we had the privilege of serving these young people. And I managed to rope Sarah in, and there's probably a number of people here that have actually over the years been roped into it. And it was in 2012 when Sarah first came along, and Josh will remember, and probably Luke will remember as well. And she came back in 2013, hadn't managed to put her off. And then she stuck on her year abroad, where she met many of her friends that are coming from afar. So somehow I'd managed to convince Sarah to come to three of these events where you're absolutely knackered. Then last year, we had the privilege of being able to be on the same team of the night security team, hence the high visibility jacket. Now, the night security team is one where we don't sleep during the night because we're wandering around this campsite making sure all the naughty young children aren't being naughty. And it's on this particular evening, myself and Sarah, some say coincidentally, I say on purpose, we're teamed up. And being the team leader, I'd given myself the privilege of finding the most attractive on the team and pairing her up with me. Now, once in a while, I managed to get outside of the office because I sat in an office and I was on a radio telling lots of people where they needed to go, what was happening. And this one time, as I said, we were wandering around the fields. When out of my pocket, I got myself a green laser pen. Now, green lasers are rather dangerous and were very regularly confiscated from young children because they shine them in people's eyes. But I'd confiscated one earlier in the week. And so I thought it would be fun to send my team on a wild goose chase. So I got my green laser pen out and I was showing some stars to Sarah in the sky. When over the radio comes a friend's voice. We've just seen a green laser pen. What do you want us to do? I said, well, you need to go and find it. So my team rolled into action and they were hunting for this green laser pen. At which point Sarah came onto the radio and said, yes, I've seen it also. At which point another member of the team, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, said, oh, I bet it's Pete. But she defended me and she managed to convince them it wasn't me. We had them going for 2.5 hours in the middle of a Norfolk field looking for a green laser pen. I'm sorry to say that I have to admit in front of you all, it was me. After this, we had a lot of fun and we were chatting and we got to know each other. And we really started to hit things off on the campsite, and I really wanted to get to know Sarah even more. And so I lured her with some interesting conversation. And there is a memorable photo that was sent. Nothing rude, I must hasten to add. But this photo means a lot to us, and if you ask Sarah what was the first ever photo I sent her, she will happily tell you. I will leave that to her.
Okay.
Now, 5 days after the New Day finished last summer, I was due to fly off to Dubai. So we didn't have much time together. Many phone calls happened, and on one occasion, I think I spent about £80 on one phone call. There was several late-night Skypes, which, if you know, we've not been together much this year. We've had to Skype an awful lot this year. But I managed to convince Sarah to come up to Birmingham for my final weekend after having asked her out. So we sat and talked about how complicated things would be. And I knew when our first time together in Frankie and Benny's in Stanway that after 3 minutes, she was the one I wanted to marry. Because as they say, once you found the one, you found the one. And so, as I said, I lured her to come to Birmingham for the final weekend before I travelled off to Dubai. And we had a lovely time. And we were due to be going, I was due to go to the airport, and I'd lost my passport. I still think Sarah hid it. However, managed to find the passport somewhere under the bed. And it meant I had to drop Sarah off at the train station. And so as I dropped Sarah off to the train station, the train was departing. So I'd said a quick goodbye, dropping her off. She ran down to the train, and I said, I see you. If I don't see you, I see you on Skype. I think she walked that time. I don't think she ran. And she missed the train. And so we had a wonderful 4 extra hours together, and she accompanied me to the airport before I flew back to Dubai. And so our year has been really much of being in Dubai, me and Sarah flying into Salzburg. And so I want to just tell you a bit about how I proposed. So obviously I've just told you, because so many of you didn't hear the story, I've told you how we got together. But now I want to tell you how I proposed. It's an interesting story. Sarah has always wanted to go to Neuschwanstein Castle, if you know it. It's in Bavaria. Some of you have got some very dodgy-looking biscuits that were meant to be Neuschwanstein Castle. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got fed up, and so some of you got round ones. So we went to Neuschwanstein, and I knew Sarah wanted to go there. And I knew at this point that it was going to be in December. And so I hastily, well, not actually hastily, because my friend Ashley, where's Ashley? Ashley, I talked to him in October about getting a ring. At which point, I'd never met Julian or Kim. I'd never had a conversation with them either, but I was plotting in my heart and in my head that I wanted to marry Sarah. And so me and Ashley had a wonderful time going looking for rings. And then early in December, I phoned up Julian. Now, I didn't really have an excuse to phone Julian, so I had to make something up. Problem was, I was on Skype, because phone calls from Dubai cost a fortune, and so the connection wasn't great. So we had a conversation, a very, very brief conversation, but thankfully Julian gave his blessing, and I really do say thank you. And so, coming back to Neuschwanstein, a beautiful castle in the middle of the Bavarian Alps, and I knew that there was this perfect place where I could propose. So we wandered slowly up the mound, up the hill, and we came to this wonderful point. But there was 50 Japanese tourists, and I didn't fancy being the next YouTube sensation. So I literally dragged Sarah up this mound, above these Japanese tourists, so they couldn't see what was about to happen. And it's at this point I need to get one of my props.
Oh, okay.
Because you see, Sarah is a bit of a keen photographer.
Oh, that's where it is.
And
Oh no, what have you done?
Sarah's I was wanting to take a nice photo. And so I said to Sarah, why don't you get a nice panoramic? Knowing that the previous 12 had taken at least 3 minutes. So I figured in my head that by the time she'd managed to line up the panoramic, I would have turned around, picked up the ring, and there I was waiting. So there she was, castle over here, beautiful lake. So we're standing on the castle, another castle over there, absolutely beautiful. And Sarah is, yep, nearly there, nearly there. Are you there yet, Sarah? No, nearly there. So I'm behind her, on my knee. 7 minutes later, no, I'm nearly there. I'm really nearly there. At which point, I got so fed up, I put my arm around her, took the camera case, threw it away, turned her around and said, "Will you marry me?" However, in the confusion, she said, "What are you doing?" And so, I had to ask a second time. But the answer was so sure and so certain that she said yes. Unfortunately, the Japanese tourists weren't there to take all the photos. And so that is the two stories that I want to share with you this afternoon. Now, today really wouldn't have been possible. Me being in Dubai and Sarah being in Salzburg most of the year, it wouldn't have been possible to plan this day without the hard work and patience and the effort of a vast number of people. First of all, Julian and Kim, you've been such a blessing and you've been so kind and so patient with us. You've been so loving and gracious and you've papered over the cracks of all our failings. And so we really want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for all you've done. And so we've got a token of our appreciation for you.
Dad, this is for you.
You can open it now if you like.
If you want to.
Don't worry, Kim, there's something on its way.
Careful, it's fragile. You've got to see what it says on it. See what it says on it. Here. Here.
A lovely wine. For those of you who don't know me, I love a glass of red wine. It says, Julian, father of the bride, Pete and Sarah, 16th July. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Kim, just a token of our appreciation. I know how much you love flowers.
I do.
And so, thank you.
Thank you.
And so, that brings me to my parents. My parents have been
Don't forget it, though.
the most loving parents anybody could ever ask for. They have been so kind in their perseverance with me, their understanding of my foibles. They have encouraged me, nurtured me, loved me, and they've been the best parents that I could have ever asked for. When I talked to them about marrying Sarah, they instantly knew that she was the one, because I didn't stop talking about her. And so, Mum and Dad, you have been so wonderful, and words can't ever explain how much you mean to me. And so I've got a token of appreciation.
That's for you, Philip. And then...
So some personalised cufflinks, in case he forgets his name. There are several people, unfortunately, that couldn't be here today. Having moved out to Dubai, there have been a large number of people that have really supported me and shared life with me. And a couple that I really want to point out today, and hopefully they're watching on the internet, are Tim and Maxine. Unfortunately, Tim is a pilot for Emirates. And so Tim has managed to supply us with many a flight for me to visit Sarah. And so it's been such a blessing for us to have them. And unfortunately, Tim's had to fly today, so he's not able to be here. There has been some other key friends that I just want to pinpoint and thank. We've got Ashley here, who's the One Dubai representative. Your love and friendship has been so amazing. Basil and Chantel, who again, unfortunately couldn't be here. They've kept me healthy, encouraged, and on the right path when I've been out in Dubai, and Sarah's been worried about me. Now, Sarah's got a few people that she would like me to thank on her behalf. And so Sarah wouldn't have made it through her university days without the craziness, laughter, and friendship from Claire, Katie, Izzy, Kate, and Hannah. So I want to say a huge thanks to you guys for keeping her sane and putting up with her quirky self. And for also not leading her astray. The guys from Stanway Evangelical Church, so we've got Catherine, Vicky, Becky, Jess, Helen, Richard, Eric and Judy. You have been such a blessing to Sarah over the years. You have loved her so much, and she is so thankful for everything that you have poured into her. And she continually talks about how much of a blessing you are to her, so thank you. And just thank you for the rest of the church, the congregation, for putting up with her and even allowing her to sing and play the piano. Jonathan and Helen, Russ and Alex, who couldn't make it today, Steve and Jan, and Church Central friends, you have put in such solid foundations into us, and I really want to thank you for everything you've done for us. I wouldn't be the man I am today without your solid teaching, Jonathan, your love and your home that you've so welcomed me into. And you really have made me the man that I am today. Andy, are you still awake? I thought he'd nod off at this point. But he said when he falls asleep, I need to get on with it. Andy, your witticisms, care and friendship has in part influenced me to become the crazy man that I am. And so I want to thank you for always encouraging me, putting up with me, letting me let off steam, and everything else that you've done over our 8 years of friendship. It means a real lot to me. Now, Alice, you don't get out of this, I'm afraid. Alice has designed the wonderful stationery that you have seen, and she's really taken a load off our minds. And so we want to thank Alice for everything that she's done. And so I know you are sad to see Sarah go, but you're not that sad, because in 2 days' time you're getting yourself a new puppy. So Sarah's already been replaced by a dog.
And it begins with an letter S as well.
And so, just something for you. It's an Andrix puppy, so have some toilet roll. So I'm sure the dog will like to chew it. So anything green, you can blame Alice. Finally, I really want to thank my Auntie Brenda, my great aunt, and Lynn. You have been so wonderful in stepping in and helping us when I don't know anything about flowers. I really don't care about flowers. But these are the most beautiful flowers I have ever seen. And when I saw Sarah smile and beam at them yesterday, it was wonderful. And so I really want to thank you so much for everything you've done, the hard work, the toil, and all the painstaking detail that you've gone to, because they do look absolutely fantastic. And so we would love to, in the next few weeks or so, we would love to spend some time with you to celebrate, okay? Now, that is me coming to the end of my speech. I would say I'm normally funny, but unfortunately there's too many thank yous to say in that one. But I do want to say, please do visit us in Dubai. We'd love to see you. The desert is very vast, so if you get lost, don't ask me. But if you want your selfie with a camel, I could tell you where to go. And my final thanks and my my toast will be to the bridesmaids, for you are the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth most beautiful women in the room. Fight it amongst yourselves as to who's who. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I wonder whether I could invite you to your feet.
And me too.
And I would like us to toast the bridesmaids. The bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids.
That's what I've got to do.
Hmm? Need it. I don't get a toast.
Get the bride in the room.
Oh, I see. You don't get my beautiful bride. Is that tradition? Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I was as surprised as many of you were this afternoon in the church when you realised that Peter Halford invited me to be his best man. As I thought he was very likely to choose someone far less suitable. But he's not a man who does the predictable thing, nor is he someone who seeks to please the crowd very often at all, as you've just experienced. So, indeed, some of you may have been alarmed when I made my initial announcements today, thinking, who's this bloke? Why does this bald lad think he's got some right to tell us stuff when it ought to be the best man? Well, you were probably expecting some spotty Herbert, fresh out of computer college, whatever that might be, or some jolly hockey sticks chemistry teacher from a fascinating place such as Stafford. But I suppose it's up to Pete, his decision, our loss. Now, like a decent example of oration, based on many years of experience of Sunday mornings, I have 3 points. The first, my responsibility. The second, my opportunity. And the third, very much my pleasure. So first of all, it's my responsibility and privilege to share with you one or two of the telegrams and postcards and cards and messages from family and friends who've been unable to be with us today. I have one or two of them here. These are the special ones. Not easy in this light. Dear Sarah and Pete, apparently. Dear Sarah and Pete, it was lovely to chat over the phone with you and family. I hope you have great fun together on your special day in July and on into the distant future. Inter actually spelled I-N-T-E-R. But there we go. That's from Nick, Uncle Nick, it would seem, in Australia. If you didn't. This nice one, dear Sarah and Peter. Oh, apparently. Wir gratulieren ein von Gatson, Hudson Love, zu ja, Hochzeit, or whatever, and on. All the best to you, both in your marriage, from Mona and Florian in Germany. And a very, very special and poignant one, lots of love from Auntie Carol, who couldn't join us today. One from her. There were one or two others that I noted. There was a card saying, love to you both from Uncle Brad and Auntie Angelina. There was another one saying, congratulations from Uncle Charles and Aunt Camilla. There's one wishing you all the best for your life together. Remember, always tell the truth and admit your mistakes. Love from Tony and Cherie. We have a text message from Barack and Mitch that reads, have a happy day, much love, B&M, heart, smiley face, strawberry emoji, fox emoji, John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever emoji. There were a couple of emails, one from Michael Gove MP saying, sorry I can't be there, but the invitation may have been lost in the post. I wish I'd done a better job as Education Secretary, but it was never going to happen due to my irrefutable lack of insight. Good political stuff going on here. And this one from Kim Walker-Smith. I think it's a song lyric. Sarah's heart walks on water, and she is a tree. Her strength eclipses the musical wallpaper because, oh, he is a knight in armour. Peter was my boyfriend. Well, you get the idea of that one. Now we turn to the second part, which is my opportunity. My opportunity to make remarks. I'm told my duty is to say a few words about the groom by way of comment or indeed wise advice to the bride, considering that she is no longer the bride-to-be and has completely burned her boats as far as that is concerned. Yet even with the permission of tradition, I'm not going to begin with tales of drunkenness or vandalism, of debauchery or wild abandon. He's actually a pretty decent bloke. Yes, he's annoying at times. I mean, there was a time, not that long ago, when I was the skinny one and he force-fed himself with chocolate and Tang Fastics and cheesy Wotsits and chips. And now, while I have gained a few pounds, he's a shadow of his former self. And yet he still eats cake and biscuits and more cake and cheesy Wotsits and chips and Tang Fastics. So that's really annoying, but there we are, that's the way it is. One of the very few gifts he's ever given me was a Bible with a whole chunk missing, which is against the rules, I think. But when he's being serious, Peter's kind, thoughtful, caring, innocent, wise beyond his years. He's a tower of strength, a pillar of responsibility. He's introduced me to new friends, and he's been humble enough to ask for my opinion on some of his schemes. He's received my opinion on some of his schemes, even when he hasn't been humble enough to ask. I've provided him with food and shelter on a few occasions. He's done the same for me, especially when I was in Dubai for the most amazing holiday of my life. We've shared some dark secrets, we've been honest, we've been tender, we've expressed the best of friendship for several years. I have written him some amazing documents and letters, some of which, let us not deny it, have gained him interviews and promotions. One of the documents he asked me to write was a curriculum for a hairdressing course. And no, the irony was not lost on me. Pete cared for me when I was poorly last summer, and he's been consistent in friendship, even from the other side of the world. He's very diligent in communication. Pete is someone that is very easy to love. He did make me cry at Christmas time, but that was because he asked me to be his best man, which is a great honour and may yet turn out to have been a monumental error. But we've shared happy occasions as well as formal gatherings when we've had to behave ourselves. Pete's a genuine, faithful Christian man, genuinely loving others, great at welcoming the stranger, setting aside his preferences in order to serve others, dedicated to God, respectful of his commands, a true worshipper. He acknowledges Jesus Christ as his Saviour and Lord, and I know it is so important to him that Sarah shares these beliefs, these lifestyle choices, these moral guidelines, these positive pastoral outlooks on people and on church life as well. They really do make a splendid match for each other, and I count it a true honour to be their friend. They make me look mildly good. Yes, you may have spotted there's a little bit of an age difference between us, and yet we're good pals. We met 7 or 8 years ago when Pete was in the middle, or so I thought, of his university course, and we discovered a number of common interests and struck up a friendship. He quickly showed himself to be a man of integrity, pastoral gift, theological knowledge, teachability. He's received my encouragements and occasional corrections and supported me through a very dark experience I had in a shockingly pressurised job. He listened with care to my rants and whinges, and he felt free to share his complaints about staff and pupils with me. Sarah, you know this already, but Pete has a good listening ear and a broad, metaphorically absorbent shoulder. He knows when to tell me to be quiet, and I can't tell you how often I've had to tell him to be quiet. Peter, you may know, has an opinion about Mr. Gove. He's kind and caring. This is Peter, not Mr. Gove. Peter is kind and caring and will often go the extra mile to help out. Speaking of miles, Peter's behaved spectacularly in terms of a really high-quality 9-lane drift on the motorway out of Dubai. Sad to say, life's companions, such as William and George, are no longer with us. Perhaps they were lost, like so many, in the night of the long knives wedding breakfast cull of spring 2016. Something which all of us, luckily, survived. Ha ha ha! Phew. Unless the unthinkable has happened and Johnny Mellor has snuck in somewhere. So, Pete and I got up to no drunken scrapes or nightclub parties. Nothing worth mentioning anyway. Nothing we're going to mention anyway. But we have had some fun along the way. For example, serving at New Day at the youth camp in what I think is probably wise in this particular setting to call something vague and general, like the pre-Sarah years. Each day, Pete very kindly shared with me what was frustrating, annoying, exasperating him, and I tried to calm him with words of scripture and wisdom, which understandably upset him all the more. We also took some holiday time away, travelling to France for a memorable 3 weeks, which we managed to cram into 10 days. Sarah, I hope you know, this man is obsessed, not only with fairy tale castles, as we've already heard, but all kinds of historical monuments. He's prepared to drive for hours and hours, and then walk from far-flung car parks to explore palaces, bridges, canals, towers, hurricane-swept basilicas, machinery sheds, a wall with a plaque, anything, and hang around them all day. I cannot imagine what twisted pleasure he gets from them. A few of them worth a photo, some of them interesting for 20 minutes perhaps. But Pete's fascination is much deeper, much, much more severe, much more, may I say, of a disease. Sarah, that's your problem now. This speech has turned out a lot darker than I expected. Anyway, my third and final and very brief duty, a very much happier one. It's my privilege to thank Pete on behalf of the bridesmaid, as the rules for these things were devised when the women folk were supposed to let us chaps do all the talking. Doesn't seem right somehow. So, I would like to add my compliments that the bridesmaids do look fantastic. They've played their parts magnificently, and of course Sarah is a very beautiful and very appropriately the centre of our attention today. So all that's left for me is to ask you to charge your glasses and to be upstanding and to raise your glasses to another toast to Mr. and Mrs. Halford. The toast is health, wealth and happiness to Pete and Sarah. And we're done. And we're done.
Very good, Andy.
Thank you. You were right, 45 minutes. Wow.